Hey, hello guys, this is Karthik from exitautomation.com. This is part 17 of our coded UI video series. So in this part, we are going to start creating a custom method for controls like edit box, buttons, and browsers. So before starting this part, I would request you to watch part 16 since this part is going to use the same code from part 16. So, custom methods. So far, in all the parts of hand coding coded UI test, we performed object identifications and operations of control without using any methods. We just created all the codes in just one single method. We identified the control, performed the operation in just the same single method. But we didn't try to write a separate method for those controls. So let's create a custom method for every control so that we can reuse the method and perform operation using the same. So custom methods are the neat way to work with codes. So you don't have to, keep on writing the same code again and again. You can just create a custom method and you can reuse that method each and every time while you try to use them. So let's flip to Visual Studio. So this is the same code which we worked in the last part. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see here, we have used the HtmlEdit text box 2 times for username and for initial. So what are the stuffs which we are doing in this code? We are first trying to create a instance for the HtmlEdit, but then passing its parent, and then using search property, we're identifying the control using its properties. So the property can be a name, or it can be a ID, or it can be a inner text, or it can be anything. So this property name is again a movable part. So in this control, we have identified using name. And then there is one more movable part, which is nothing but the username. So here, the value will keep on changing. The property name will keep on changing. Here it is username. Sometimes it can be initial or sometimes it can be anything else. So this is again a movable part. And then we are performing a keyboard.send key within this control. So as you can see here, what are the movable parts here? So the first movable part is, so let's try to write a method and then we'll try to comment things out. So public static void, let's say enter text, right? I'm not going to write anything yet, so let this be. So we'll first identify the movable parts, right? So the first movable part is its parent, right? So the second movable part is going to be the control itself. So it can be HtmlEdit, or it can be HtmlTextArea, or it can be anything else. So you can see there are a lot of controls available. You can see here HTML editable divs, similarly HtmlTextArea. So there are a lot of controls which perform the same entering of text operation in a text box control, right? So we cannot keep on writing methods for each and every controls which perform text entry operations. So we need to somehow segregate them, right? So here we also need the control type. So what kind of control it is? So as of now it is HtmlEdit, that is fine, but tomorrow if it is going to be HtmlTextArea, again you have to write a separate method for that, just for performing the enter text. So you cannot keep on relying on writing different method for different controls. So you need to create a generic control, generic custom control, which perform entering text operation for any given controls, right? So you need to also know the control type, and then the type of property. Oops, type of property. So the type of property is nothing but this, whether is it a name, or is it an ID, or is it an inner text, or whatever it is. So the type of property is again a movable part, and then the property value. So that's again a movable part, right? So the property value keeps on changing. So there are 4 movable part. That's it. I don't think there is any more movable part here, right? So these are the four different movable parts for any given enter text you're going to perform for any given control. So how to write a method which can achieve these steps? So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a enumerator. So let's create this enumerator as property type. So what this property type will have is, I'm just trying to make this as little strongly typed so that you can use this enumerator rather the string value. So this is a kind of little C# coding here I have used so that you can make use of a better coding anytime while you start working with code UI testing, right? So just try to use the strongly typed instead of just passing the string value anywhere anytime. So what I'm going to do is, so instead of using this name or ID, I'm going to make this as a little strongly typed. So while the condition comes here, you can use the enum instead of the string value. So you'll understand why I'm creating this enum in just a minute. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create the enum as ID, name, class name, inner text, tag instance, right? So let this be here. So I've just created this mobile part as an enum here, and then the property value is surely going to be a string value, so let this be. And the control type, right? So the control type, as I already told, it will keep on changing, like HtmlEdit, HtmlTextArea, etc. So everything is going to just perform a single enter text operation. So they're just going to type the value into those controls, so we cannot keep on creating different controls for that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create the parameters like this. So I'm going to create a object, and I'm going to call this guy as the control type, right? This is going to be just object. So whatever control type you're going to pass here is going to be just object type, right? And then the type of property, which is nothing but our enumerator here. So this is the type, and then the property value. So this is going to be string. So property value, and then the most important thing is the text itself. We need to pass this value as well, right? So let this be here, and then the control type. So this is, since this is going to be an object and you expect it to be in HtmlEdit or HtmlTextArea, etc., you need to check it before you start working with that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to check here itself. So if the control type is, so there is a keyword called is in C#, so you can use that, is a HtmlEdit, right? So then perform these operations. Else, if the control type is HtmlTextArea, then perform operations for HtmlTextArea, right? You can make this generic as well. So we will discuss about making a complete generic control code in advanced C# code of the next video of this video series. But as of now, just hold tight with this control, with this code. And now we need to create or pass the parent for this HtmlEdit, right? So HtmlEdit edit is equal to new HtmlEdit. So the parent is nothing but our parent window property, which we discussed in the last video of this video series. So the same parent window, you can pass it right here. All right. And then you need to verify the property type. So whether is it an ID or is it a name or class name, etc. right here. So if value, if type is equal to property type.name, then perform these operations. Else, if type is equal to property type.id, then perform these operations. ID, right? So you can keep on creating for each and every property type right here, right? So the next thing is we need to have a search property for this. So the edit dot search properties of HtmlEdit dot property name dot name. All right, super, is equal to nothing but the property value. So I'm going to pass it right here. All right. So similarly, we can just copy paste for ID as well. So instead of name, you can just pass ID. Super. That's it. So once everything has been identified, the last operation that you need to perform for this edit is nothing but typing itself, which you can do using keyboard.send keys of the edit control and the text value, right? The text is nothing but the value which you passed in the parameters right here. All right, did you see our custom code, which is pretty plain and simple right here? It's very interesting that you wrote a super cool custom method to perform a enter text operation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment this thing out, and I'm going to call my custom method instead of keep on writing these 3 lines each and every time. So enter text of the control type. So the control type is nothing but my HTML edit. So for this I need to create a new HTML edit, right? And the property type is nothing but its name, right? So you can see its name here, right? And then my property value is username, and I want to type Karthik as the username for my control. See, just one method name, just one line code for this method, and we perform these 3 line operation for this, right? It's so abstracted right now. So let's try to run this and see how thing works. Should hopefully open the browser and type the value for me there. Is it typing? Yep, it typed the value Karthik for me there, and then it types KK. Of course we not change the code there, so we'll try to change that code as well and see how things works. So I'm just copy this code, and instead of this so big code, I'm gonna just paste it right here. So instead of username, you can replace this to initial. So instead of Karthik, you can replace to KK. All right, see how super cool we have written this method, and we're just reducing the lines so much, just crunched the code so much here. And now you can compare with your UI map.designer.cs file. It's still what, 919 lines of code, and you have reduced it to how much line? At least 156 lines. That too very reusable, right? You should be proud of this. All right, so I'm just kidding. Just run the test and see how things work. All right, it should type Karthik for me there, and should click, and then it should also type initial KK for me there. All right, you see that? It's worked like cheese. Great. So this is the one of the way of writing your custom methods for your code. Similarly, you can write the custom method for your button as well. So for writing the button, I think it's going to be very simple for you. You can just use the same logic for button. So what I'm going to use is, or what I'm going to do is, so similarly for button itself, there are 2 types of button. One is HTML input button. Similarly, there is one more button called HtmlButton. Do you see that? Both are button as well. So you cannot keep on writing different methods for click operations in the button, or even for checkbox or option button. You cannot keep on writing the click for each and every control. So you need to write a very generic control for the click as well. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write public void click, and then again the same object, and then the control type, and then the property type and string property value. That's it. You don't have to type the text there, since we're not going to just type, you're just going to click it. That's it. So what I'm going to do, again, the same code. I'm just going to copy paste this code right here. So instead of HtmlEdit, I'm going to say HTML input button. All right. So I'm just going to replace the whole code right here. All right. And let this be the same thing. And I'm not going to send the keys there. Rather, you're going to click. So it's going to be mouse dot click of the. Oops. See, I made a small mistake here. Instead of edit, you can call this as button. All right. I'm just giving some bad naming convention here, so just ignore this for now. Just trying to rush this video a little bit because this has been a long video. All right. Super. So this click operation performs some operation for us. So instead of this big code, I'm going to say just click. All right. Click of new HTML input button. All right. And then the property type is name. All right. What is the button name? I think it's login, right? All right. Super. So now if I try to run this code, it should work. So open the browser and hit the login. Do you see that? It's working pretty fine as expected. So now you can see the number of lines of codes we have reduced. It's tremendous. These are reusable, and it's just kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of code for such a big operations which we performed. And these things don't count this because these are reusable. You can use them anytime, anywhere, right? So this is what is the number of lines of code that which you have used. Alright guys, so in the next video of this video series, we're going to talk a little deeper how to write a even more generic custom control using generics in C#, and we'll see how things work from there. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching this video and have a great day.